of the most admirable chasers you could possibly wish to see.
Hello and a huge warm welcome to this, the very latest Racehour weekend preview, the show where on the eve of a huge weekend of live sport, we join together with sponsors and pundits to bring you what we hope will be about 30 minutes of preview excellence. You'll be the judge. I'm your host, Tom Lee. Our sponsors, thanks to them, they are Betfred and Gambling.com. And our pundits, three finer men you could not find. First of all, from Get Your Tips Out, Joe Norris, the man who I think is just about recovered from 3 days at Cheltenham. Or have you, Joe?
I'm getting there slowly but surely, I think. Obviously, it was a brilliant 3 days. Some great racing there. We've got not as much racing coming up on this Saturday, but I think it's quality over quantity this week, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, another man who I would deem to be inexhaustible. He could go to Cheltenham for a month and you wouldn't even know it. Come in, Gary Connolly.
Morning, Tom. Geez, that's generous now. It's been a long time since I could do more than one day at Cheltenham, so usually hump a bed for 9 o'clock during the festival. So I'll take the compliment, but
a man after my own heart. And finally, well, you talk about Cheltenham. There aren't too many people who can put their hand in the air and say, not only have they been to Cheltenham, they've ridden a winner at the festival. That was in 2010. That was Chief Dan George. And that man is Paddy Aspell. Welcome, Paddy.
Thanks, Lance. Good morning to you.
Right. Without further ado, we have got something in the region of half an hour to spin through 6 races. That is the terrestrial action this Saturday afternoon. It's high quality. There aren't millions of runners. They've had to apply a bit of water on the track at Newcastle, such has been it's bonkers really, because parts of the UK have been flooded. Others have barely seen a drop of rain. Absolutely crazy stuff. However, we will start with Newbury, where there are 4 races. And Joe, if you'll start us off, the precise race time is 1:54 at Newbury. It should have been a 0 to 145 handicap hurdle over just further than 2.5 miles. It is in effect a 0 to 140. If you had a pound or indeed a euro, where would it be going?
Well, I think with no Tanya on the show this week, I think I've got to try and put one up at a price in her place. I'm going to give a chance to the Henderson second string, Spring Note. It's around sort of 16 to 1 in the market. Now, this mare's actually unbeaten at the track. She's 3 from 3. She does need to prove herself over the trip, so that is a slight worry, but she's versatile with the ground. Obviously, it's going to be good to soft. There's no rain forecast from what I've seen. And I just think she's going to go from the front. I had a look at previous winners of the race. Obviously, last year, you had the Skelton one, Get a Tonic, Maidel. I think there's only been one hold-up winner of the race in the last 6 years. So I think you do want to be, on the speed. And she just stood out to me as being overpriced. Obviously, David Bass is a good jockey off the front in a good rhythm as well. So I think at 16 to 1, I think she's a good value bet.
I was going to say, sponsors Betfred, significant double figure odds currently as we're recording. And of course, these are subject to fluctuation. Currently 1 for 14 to 1 about Spring Note for Henderson and indeed David Bass. Significant day for Nicky Henderson. There's a lot on the line, particularly up at Newcastle. We'll come to that. But before then, the race registered, Gary, as historically the Jerry Fielden. The journey's 2.5 miles a furlong. It's an intermediate handicap hurdle. This is tricky, or is it? What have you got up your sleeve, Gary Connolly?
yeah, proper competitive race, and probably one worth following for the rest of the season. I think it's going to throw plenty of winners. But at the prices, I'm going to side with Bali. Currently 20 to 1 with our sponsors, and that just looks a wild price to me. Hobbs and White stable are in a lot better form this season. Everything they're running seems to be running well. This fella showed plenty of ability last season. Ran an absolute screamer at the Aintree Festival. Just fought them all off up the straight and just got mugged late on. I'd probably cross out his last run at Haydock. It just came too soon after Aintree. He just has a cracking attitude, and I think he'll give a ball side from the front, and 20s is just way too big for him.
Yeah, Bali, whatever you want to call him, currently 20 to 1 with Betfred. And I think as well, great to see Micheal Nolan, who patiently bided his time and waited in the slipstream of Richard Johnson and indeed Tom O'Brien all those years. now getting his just rewards and all those good opportunities on the Saturday horses for the Philip Hobbs team. Now, gentlemen, we will, of course, focus in more detail on what historically and lovingly known as the Hennessy is the 3 o'clock Newbury, nowadays run as the Coral Gold Cup. Good race, not the biggest field, I think it's fair to say. Paddy, if you'll lead us in a race where not only have we got a French visitor, but also 2 crossing the pond from Ireland to compete at Newbury, including one of those very much prominent in the betting, Senior Chief. What to make of this, Paddy Aspell? Which one would you like to ride?
Yeah, absolutely intriguing, Tom, this, isn't it? And maybe not the deepest renewal quality-wise, but competitive, you certainly can't knock it here. I'm pretty sure outside of the Grand National, this is the richest handicap in the UK over fences. So a huge prize on offer here, 142 grand. Obviously, we've got Senior Chief at the top of the market there. Darragh O'Keefe, he's been absolutely cleaning up, hasn't he, in Rachel Blackmore's absence, and he comes in for another good spare here on Senior Chief, who looked very, very good when we seen him last time, but he's got his fair share of weight here for me, 11 stone 11, and for me it's a little bit kind of like Ger Lyons on the level. When Henry de Bromhead comes over this side of the water, they go home empty-handed an awful lot more than they land the prize. So interesting, but he is a solid horse. Obviously, Colonel Harry Connections looking for a repeat win in this race. The one thing I thought about Colonel Harry when he made his return at Carlisle 27 days ago, there wasn't many runners, and he just got involved in a duel, probably far enough out that day, and eyeballed Traprain Law, and they probably set it up for the winner that day. So he's going to improve for sure. Another one, very, very likeable profile. Broadway Boy, probably you wouldn't get more honest horses in training, but he had some very, very hard races last year, and I thought on more than one occasion he had his tank emptied at Cheltenham. He's just too honest for his own good, Broadway Boy, and just things like that can leave their mark, so I'm happy to leave him alone. The one that I have come down on here was Victorino. Still only a 6-year-old. We've seen what Venetia has been doing in these handicap chases in recent weeks, and I think that the key with this chap is to get him fresh in the early part of the season, because he tends to train off. He's going to be delivered late in the day. I think they'll go a million here. Plenty of pace on. Charlie Deutsch, when you watch him on these handicap chasers of Venetia's, he's just poetry in motion, and that mark of 143, I think the handicapper is still giving him a chance to land a prize like this. So if he's fit and tight and ready to go on his return, I think this is the time to get him here, Victorino. So he'll do for me, but really looking forward to this one.
Well, I think that's a fascinating angle because, of course, Venetia Williams has got a big chance in the rehearsal chase. Could it be a big Saturday handicap double for her? And also don't forget that as we're heading in to this recording prior to the weekend, the Williams Herefordshire stable operating at a whopping 33% strike rate. Victorino currently 15-2 with our sponsors. Thank you, Paddy. Joe, do you agree with that, or have you got value lurking elsewhere in this Coral Gold Cup field?
Yeah, so I sort of started off by looking at last year's winner, That's Right Gino, which then led me on to Colonel Harry, like Paddy was touching on. I do like Colonel Harry. I think he's got a nice profile, but I do worry about the trip and whether he'll see it out. And I think that's a big enough question mark at his price to sort of take him on. I've got to go against Paddy really, because I thought that run from Broadway Boy behind Senior Chief at Cheltenham, I thought that screamed like he's going to come on a ton for that run. He sort of went through the race quite well and then just got tired. But I think that was a big run. I think that's good form with Senior Chief. And I think if he strips fitter from that, he's going to have a big chance. But I do take Paddy's point on board that he's very honest type. But I think 7-1. I think the price is right. I'm happy to play Broadway Boy.
Broadway Boy towards the front of the market for Joe. And that, of course, leaves Gary, who... Are you in agreement with either of the boys, or are you going to branch out on your own, Gary? What do you think about this Hennessy?
I'll be going out on my own, and it's Vive la France, the French rider General on Chef, I think is the one to side with here. He's off 148, just looks absolutely handicap bluff for me. It's a great run performance in France. If you take his literal French rating over here, he should be 160 plus. So well in for me. Like he's a class act around France. Toured in the Grand Steep de Paris back in May, 3-6. He probably just doesn't stay that trip, but his class got him placed in that race. Like he had a grade 1 horse in a handicap here. He should be off 160. He's off 148. Maybe I have some reservations about seeing out this type of trip, but it should be okay, I think. Jockey riding and Benjamin Gele, he's probably not one of the bigger names in France. Rides around the provisional tracks as opposed to Parisian ones, but he's handy enough. Like, and he's struck up a great partnership with this fella, and he looks at decent price for a very classy horse, so he'll do for me.
2 questions pertaining to that, Gary, if you don't mind. See, he's been winning at Auteuil and Compiègne. I've been to Auteuil. I haven't been to Compiègne, but for any of our watchers who were honing in on this, thinking, interesting, 11-1 each way, I wouldn't mind a bit of that. How does Newbury compare to those tracks? And also, is he going to get soft enough ground? Heading into Friday's racing at Newbury, they were calling it good to soft on the chase course. And yet, we see in France, they seem to run in a bog. Is the ground going to be soft enough? And how's he going to translate his form to a track like Newbury?
Okay. Most French horses, I get the point with the soft ground. I think this fella doesn't need it. Bottomless, like good to soft, should be all right. Newbury is a track that I think will suit him very well. Auteuil it's a tough jumping test for a horse. So Newbury should suit. Big, long, straight. He travels so well, this horse. And the tempo of this race, he's just got to float around this track, and he'll come there swinging and hopefully he gets home. But no reservations about the track or ground for me.
That's the sort of confidence and explanation we thrive on here on the Racehour Weekend Preview. So that was the analysis of the 3 o'clock at Newbury, their big race on this Super Saturday. And the lads in this order suggesting Victorino, Paddy, Joe, Broadway Boy, and indeed General en Chef for Gary mentioned there. Paddy, come back to me if you will, because the 3:35 at Newbury, again, like the first race, the ratings bracket is slightly higher than the race we've been delivered. It is effectively a 0-140. It's a race historically known as the Jim Joel handicap chase. The distance just a whisker higher than 2 miles. Which one of these would you want to be riding? 3:35 Newbury, Paddy.
Yeah, again, Tom, cracker, to be honest. Very surprised to see Jenner Madrano declared here. Fair play, Emma Lavelle chucking her hat in here with a horse who ran at Haydock only last week. I can't imagine there'll be too many others rocking up from Haydock this weekend again, but he's obviously bounced back well out of that race, in a race which he ran well at. So, but I'd be happy to leave him alone, judged on we've seen the conditions there last week. Obviously, Imperial Saint, he's a hard one to gauge. This, obviously, much deeper water tomorrow for him. It would be a huge winner for the Hobbs and Johnson White team, because obviously this is the Richard Johnson Racing Club connections here, runs in his own mum's colours as well. So there's a big story connected with this horse. But aside from all that, he really is on the improve, because to think that this horse started out initially in point to points, and what he's doing now over 2 mile. Now I know he's up £10 for what he did at entry last time, but these handicappers watch enough races and they don't often get it wrong. So yeah, he's got to improve. The way he travels, the way he jumps, 11 stone 12, he's got an awful lot more on his plate here. But for a 6-year-old, I think the miles on the clock are extremely limited. So he's open to any amount of improvement. It will be a fine effort if he does win. I do think he will, but there's zero price, or zero juice, should I say, in the price, just simply based on how he's gone about those 2 wins for now. I do think he'll win because I think he's a horse who's massively on the upgrade, and the team couldn't be in much better order. But it is hard to get away from Gary and Josh Moore, should I say, that a couple of winners at Lingfield yesterday. And Issar Dari, he's got a real good record going around Newbury. You don't see many Sindars doing this job, but he's got plenty of ability. And to be honest, last time in behind Martador, he probably just stepped on the gas early enough that day, because he wasn't beaten very far and ran an absolute screamer. So getting the weight that he's going to be getting off Imperial Saint. He's going to be banged there, but like I said, I'm not going to go against Imperial Saint, albeit I would love a little bit more juice in the price, but that's what we're dealing with. But for me, I think he can make it 3 from 3 over fences and continue on the upgrade. But again, looking forward to this. It's a cracker.
Yeah, good stuff, Paddy. Thank you very much. That's another fiver. Richard Johnson owes you. And the sponsors currently top of the head, 9-4 about your selection there, Imperial Saint. And again, another great opportunity for Micheál Nolan to showcase what he's all about after all those years, patiently, as I say, and I repeat myself, but with good reason, because he sat in the shadows forever and a day, and finally, he is the main man for the Hobbs team. We're going to switch camps now because we go from Newbury all the way up to the northeast in Gosforth Park to Newcastle, where it's quite amazing. Selectively, they've been having to apply water to the track, lads, to prepare it for this famous Fighting Fifth fixture, which seems amazing when in Northamptonshire there's been severe flooding. In Tenbury Wells in Worcestershire, not a million miles from Worcester and Hereford racecourses, they've had severe flooding. Business is wrecked. And yet in the northeast, the Clerk of the Course, what a job that must be this week, having to apply water to the track prior to that Newcastle card. All three of you, please, if you will. 210 is the Grade 1 Fighting Fifth, a contest which pits, if you think about this, Henderson against Mullins, therefore the UK against Ireland, Sergino against Mystical Power. What a race this could be. My goodness, Joe Norris. Which way to go here? It's a head scratcher. It's, for some people, unfathomable. You're a professional. I don't think you'll say that. I suspect you've got a strong opinion.
Yeah, so obviously we've got to touch on the fact that Constitution Hill was coming here originally, but has been got a setback. So now Sergino, who was going over fences, has now been rerouted and comes for this. I wouldn't take that as a negative. I'm all over Sergino in this. I think he's an absolute class act. And, while I respect Mullins and I respect Mystical Power, I think you can start picking holes in the Mystical Power form. I don't think it's as strong as we first thought. I know Slade Steele's gone over fences and been beat, so you can't take that, literally. But I do think Sergino, he was so impressive. I really rate that Cargeese on Mullins, and he just put him away easily at Aintree. I think, I can't wait to see this horse over fences. That's where I want to see him. But I think he's got the class to win this, and I think he's a deserved favourite.
Well, it would appear, Joe, that the Betfred odds compilers, at the time that we're talking at least, agree with you, because they are odds on 5 to 6, odds subject to fluctuation, about the horse mentioned, Sergino, who looks a more than able deputy for Constitution Hill. I wonder, the English voice goes for Sergino. What about if we cross the pond and talk to Gary Connolly? Are you going to hit back across the ring with a suggestion for Mystical Power? Or indeed, is there value lurking further down that list, Gary? Because, for example, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but lump sum, deeply impressive at Foss Lass, beating Steel Alley, who absolutely hacked up at Haydock last week. Could there be something outside the front two, or is it obvious?
No chance outside the top two. It's just between these, and I'm coming out swinging for the green corner here. I just think this race is all priced wrong. It's priced on hype and just people looking at a racecourse gallop where he beat a cripple on the bridle. And his form is like Mystical Power's better form. Like if you put a novice hurdler against a juvenile hurdler at the top in the division, the novice hurdler's going to win every day, I think. So Gino's coming here as a second thought. He's been skilling over fences. He wasn't the slickest jumper last year over hurdles, and this isn't going to help his cause. He's got to be big and bold at a couple of them, you imagine. Mystical Power, he's just a hardy little horse. He was a top novice hurdler last season. Even a count getting him beating the Supreme, he just pulled his chance away and got his pocket picked late up the hill by a stayer. He turned that form well around at Cheltenham, or Punchestown even, sorry. And like he's more streetwise, better jumper, trained for the race, one for the Irish.
Any danger the ground's going to be too lively for him? He has predominantly been targeted on soft ground if you look back through his last half a dozen or so races. Any question mark there?
No, I think he'll go on the good ride. I think the way the ground is will favour him more than Sergino. Sergino needs it a lot softer than him. So, no concerns on the ground for him, I don't think.
So Gary says mystical power emphatically. Joe says Sergino pretty much emphatically as well. Paddy Aspell, if you ever wanted to be a boxing referee, it'd stand in the middle of the ring and give your scorecard at the end of the bout and have the decisive vote. Well, this is about as good as as close as I can get you to that scenario. If you will adjudicate, who would you like to be riding in this fighting fifth? And indeed, why?
Yeah, it's extremely close, isn't it? I think you could pick holes in both of them if you want to get extremely picky, because mystical power, I mean, in an ideal world, I've never been the biggest fans of these Galileos jumping, but Annie Power, she improved with age, and that's exactly what he did last year. Strange old run at Cheltenham, and just thought he got worried out of it a little bit, and maybe the whole big day, big crowd probably was the difference for mystical power, but that's been his only defeat so far. Been very good since then. Whether he's going to be absolutely cherry ripe here to go first time is debatable. Where Sergino's form is very strong. 4-year-olds, I think Countrywide Flame back in 2012 was the last 4-year-old to win this race. But at least we have got the 9 runners here, so we've got a crack in each angle. We could talk about that as well. But although this is possibly plan B for Sergino, I would just side with him. It's been a bumpy ride, hasn't it, so far for Nicky Henderson this season? It hasn't all been plain sailing for sure. And even some of the shorties that have been winning, it's been an uncomfortable watch at times, and that's maybe what you might get here. But I think he's very classy, Sergino. I think this track will suit him. Just get lengthening up that straight at Newcastle, and yeah, there's very little between them. Only £2 on the ratings, but I would be in the Sergino camp. And each way here, I think we could possibly get 1 or 2 very, very tidy handicap marks blowing out of the water here. And interesting that the Megsons are happy to chuck Teller the Name in here, because it hasn't been plain sailing since the Megsons switched their horses. I'm not sure if they've even had a winner since they've moved from the Ben Pauling outfit, but Teller the Name, Ben Pauling always insisted that a sound surface was what this horse needed. And again, like I mentioned about Venetia's horses earlier on, this is another similar type. I think the time to get him is early, so I think he's a cracking each way shout here with the 9 runners, but I'm with Sergino here to hopefully remain unbeaten, but looking forward to this one also.
Well, Teller the Name, as a potential lively outsider as we're recording, is 4-0, 40-1 with sponsors Betfred. But two votes there from the lads for Sergino, and Gary coming out swinging for the Mullins team at Mystical Power. That's not all we've got coming from Newcastle live on the box on Saturday afternoon, because, and I love this race down the years, it's been quite a slog on many an occasion. Not so this year, because maybe not the biggest field, and of course quicker conditions underfoot and influence, but 3:20 at Newcastle is the Rehearsal chase. The journey half a furlong less than 3 miles. Joe Norris has got a lovely each way shape to it this race. I suspect you'll have found a bit of value lurking somewhere down the list. Who'd you like?
Yeah, I've got a lovely each way price actually. I think Blackjack Magic could go well for Anthony Hannibal. Now, the main argument for this horse is his record fresh. He's obviously back from 7 months off the track. If you look at the win over 3 under through 5 at Wincanton in the Badger Beer last year, the front pair there came 14 lengths clear. That was a massive run. That was off a mark of 132, so he's only £4 higher. The Yard are in good form. They've I think they've had 4 winners in the last couple of weeks. Obviously, he's pulled up at Punchestown, but I wouldn't judge him too harshly on that. He's the sort of horse I think you just need to get him into a good rhythm and get him jumping, and he sort of grows in confidence. And I thought at the prices, 18-1 was quite a big price. If take away last year, La Home Press won it. Obviously, was the class act in the race last year, but there has been upsets in this. I think York Hill won it at 66-1. So I think you sort of want to try and go for one at a big price. And with this horse's record fresh, I think he's a good bet.
Well, could there be a bit of each-way magic from Joe Norris? Great stuff. Once again, of course, this can always change, but the current price that sponsors Betfred about Blackjack Magic, as we're talking to you now, 1 for 14 to 1. Lovely stuff there, Joe. Thank you very much. Lads, before I wrap this up and ask you for your naps, anybody, probably not you, Joe, but either of you two lads, Paddy or indeed Gary, heading out to Fairyhouse on Sunday for what's always a fantastic day's sport?
Yeah, be there Sunday. Hot whiskey in hands. Watching Thibaut and Nossie Mount-Loughorn's cracking race. Always one of the best cards to go to. Like, I'd recommend that meeting for anyone from the UK who wants to come over and get a bit of Irish racing in. It's probably one of the best meetings you can go to the year. So yeah, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's a well-marshalled setup there at Fairyhouse. Peter Roder, Clark of the course, produces it impeccably time after time. If you go there, I suspect, if you head to meet on Sunday, you will not be disappointed. Now then, lads, I will just recap very quickly and mention the names that have come into the frame for the 6 TV races on Saturday afternoon. For anybody who wants to scribble these down, Newbury 154, Joe suggesting Spring Notes. Gary gave us Borley around 20 to 1 in the 225 Newbury. The names in the frame for the 3 o'clock Newbury, Victorino, Broadway Boy, General on Chef. Imperial Saint got the nod in the 335 at Newbury from Paddy. And then at Newcastle, we had 2 votes for Sergino, 1 for Mystical Power. And then most recently in that 320 at Newcastle, Blackjack Magic each way, double figure odds from Joe. And Joe, I mentioned you last, so let's roll into these weekend naps. What do you fancy? You've got a sniper's accuracy normally. Don't let us down.
Yes, I'm just going to touch on a race that I haven't had a say on. It was the intermediate handicap hurdle, the 225 at Newbury.
225 Newbury.
Yeah, I thought Liari was quite a good bet here for Nichols. Now, I just think he needed the run at Chepstow. I thought that was quite a good run to finish third. A mark of 130, I thought he's well handicapped off that mark. If he steps forward from that, I think Nichols has had this targeted with him. He's sort of unexposed, and the ground's going to be perfect for him. Obviously, he ran in the Fred Winter at the Cheltenham Festival. He's jumping, let him down that day, so he's jumping his key. If he gets out and he's jumping well, I think that mark, he can make that mark look silly. I think he's around 7 to 1. I think he's a good bet.
Good stuff. That is your nap of the week of Saturday afternoon of the weekend. Strongest bet.
Yeah.
Good man. So Liari in that 225 at Newbury for Joe. Gary, I'm going to come to you next, please. Weekend nap for viewers of the Racehour weekend preview. What's it to be and why?
Yeah, I'm sticking with Newbury as well. A bit earlier in the card, I'm going to go with Lemilos. I think he's very well handicapped. He actually won the big race on the card probably 2 years ago off a higher mark. Shaped very well behind the Gold Cup Fantasy Senior Chief and Broadway Boy at Cheltenham in October. Travelled very well through the race. I think he just blew up and should come on plenty for that run, and it should leave him spot on for tomorrow even. So he'll do for me, Lemilos.
Good stuff, Gary. Yeah, Lemilos, in case you're scrambling around trying to find that one at home, he is race card number 2 for the Skeltons. That is the second race on the card on Saturday at Newbury, the 12:40. Paddy Aspell, we've saved the best till last, I hope. Your nap for viewers of the show.
Yeah, another race I hadn't touched on, Tom, but it was the 154, and I'm a big fan of the Paul Nicholls horse here in the Waterside because he was doing so much wrong last year. He is a very, very headstrong type, but you would struggle to see a better looking horse than this fella. And on his return run last time at Aintree at the end of October, really he had no business beating Jaguar that day because he literally ran away with Harry Cobden for the full duration of the race. Now, he only scrambled home by a head, but how he won, God only knows, was probably feeling it next time when he got beat. He goes well fresh, this horse, and he's a little bit older now again. And on his final run at Aintree at the Grand National Festival, he ran very well there in the first time hood. I'm hoping, although he's £3 higher here, mentally he's come forward a good bit, because if he has, there's a huge engine in there, Tom, and he's not going to be on his own here on the front end. That's the biggest worry. But honestly, he's got a massive engine, and if he can help Harry Cobden out in the early part of the race here, I do think this 6-year-old has got a bit of wiggle room off that mark of 132.
Absolutely tremendous. You've been doing your homework, Paddy Aspell. Thank you very much. So could that be a nice little Trixie or a patent for regular viewers of the show? 12.40 Newbury for Gary Lamilos, 154 Newbury for Paddy in the waterside, and Joe completing the Newbury effect with Leari in that 2.25. I say this every week, but time flies when you're enjoying yourself. From myself, from Paddy, from Gary, from Joe, thanks for being with us. Thanks for watching. Big thumbs up to our sponsors. They are Betfred and Gambling.com. You know where to find us. Tell your friends. We'll be back in the same space to preview next weekend. Good luck. Enjoy.
Relentless, remorseless, and pounded Cordon Star into submission.